Sir has joined us, Dr. Guru Prasad Mahapatra, and a very, very distinguished Indian Administrative Service officer, currently the Secretary of Department of Industrial Policy and Internal Trade, an officer of the 1986 batch Gujarat cadre. I have had the pleasure of working with him when he was Joint Secretary and Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, and then as he went on to handle as the Director General of the Civil Aviation Ministry, and now, of course, is Secretary. And I had the good fortune of meeting him in person and discussing the agenda and requesting him to come to Jaipur. We are able to do it virtually today. I warmly welcome you, sir, on this weekend. Sorry for taking your time on a weekend, as I see that you have been very, very busy in other meetings. Please accept our virtual floral welcome. If you can see the flowers on the screen, sir. We are delighted to have you in our inaugural session as a keynote speaker on Startup India and the kind of initiatives both in the policy and in the implementation field that DPIIT in its new nomenclature is ably guided by the very, very dynamic leadership of Dr. Guru Prasad Mohapatra, whose love and affection I've always had since my days in the Ministry of Commerce. Sir, thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to have you on a tech platform. And with those words, I now request you to address with your keynote speech our audience, which is not just confined to Jaipur and Rajasthan, but all across the country, and also goes beyond the confines of our own borders. We have a lot of participants internationally from Italy, from Australia, and from several other places. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much for doing this for us.
Thank you, Mugdha. As always, you always do something very different and something more, always very passionate about the activities that are given to you by government, and I could see it by the virtual flower that you gave me. Thank you so much. And my sincere greetings to all the participants on this conclave today. As we all know, the Startup India has been a very important initiative of the Government of India. It was this entire initiative for launching a Startup India campaign was given by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2016. And from where we started with the startup policy, today we have almost more than 32,000 recognized startups by DPIIT alone. And I'm sure the number of startups are much more than that. A lot of things have been done for the startup ecosystem, apart from the fund of funds scheme and so on. A lot of income tax benefits, some process simplifications, indirect taxes simplifications and benefits. There's an ongoing process which is going on. We have a very strong startup team also in DPIIT, which works on how to make things simpler. I would not like to give a more speech about startup community. I would, for the time that I had promised till around 1:30, I would like to answer any questions that you all, the participants, and Mugdha, if you would like to ask to know what are the problems that the startup communities are facing and what policy initiative Government of India has taken, some scope for improving those, and or some more initiatives that the government needs to take.
Sure, sir. Sir, if you could tell us a little bit about the objectives of the Startup India policy and what are the outcomes? How do we connect the objectives of the policy with the outcomes? This basically I'm asking you, sir, because we'd like to know what are the expectations of the department who is the originator and the progenitor of this startup policy from the people who are doing startups in the country, not just in terms of number, but also in terms of trying to solve a problem, sir.
See, now let me put it this way. There is a tremendous, startups is not a new idea, though the recognition for startup as an ecosystem is of recent vintage. There has always been original thinkers, some people who like to do things differently, look at alternative solutions to a problem, and those were the original startups. But right now, there is a recognized policy to encourage such work who are self-employed, who go into providing a new solution to a original existing problem. So you have now startups who are coming into the technology sector. There are startups who are entering into manufacturing, startups who are providing various services. So what we have done is try to make things simpler by adopting our laws to suit the startups. A lot of initiatives have been taken, and I'm sure most of you know about it. What we are now thinking is to start a seed money kind of a concept for those startups who want to come from a ideation stage to a proof of concept stage. There are such seed schemes in some state governments, some departments of government of India like biotechnology and others have this seed money, but we want to make it a national scheme to bring such support for the startup community. Secondly, we find that the credit guarantee is a very major problem for availing credit is a very major problem for the startups. As long as now, as per the recent packages announced by the finance minister, as long as the startups are registered as MSME, all the benefit that will flow to MSME will also flow to startups. So that is something which we are telling the startup community also. Further, we are now working on a initiative which will give some sort of a credit guarantee to the startups when they approach lending institutions for either working capital or for their capex requirement. The third initiative we are going to take is the fund of funds has been increased. It was originally the 10,000 crores fund of funds scheme, which is administered through SIDBI. So that we have now pumped in more money. Last year we gave more than 1,000 crores. This year we are proposing to give even more. And then the entire income tax regime for the startups and the direct tax regime for the startups. Right now, that the taxation team of the Department of Revenue and the Startup India team from the Department of DPIIT, they are working together to see what further relaxations can be given in the direct and indirect tax regime. So these are broadly some of the sectors, and also we are trying to provide marketing support to those startups who are into manufacturing by providing them space under the public procurement schemes of the central government, by encouraging them support through other procurement methodologies where central government departments are procuring. So these are some of the broadly the initiatives that we are working on now.
Thank you so much, sir. That is very, very comprehensive, sir. And I would also encourage all participants to please visit the websites of the government, of the various ministries and departments that have joined us today for more information, including our own DST Government of Rajasthan website. Sir, I have another question, sir, which I, as secretary, especially in the post-COVID times, find in the realm of startups. So when this different innovations started taking place, a lot of people started approaching us and asking that we have come up with an app that can do a tracing and testing. So we would like to work with Government of Rajasthan to do it. So my question, based on this experience and also working in the field of IPR, where we have this prior art search, where we avoid duplication of any kind of innovation for a patent. I see, sir, there is a lot of duplication of the idea when it comes, to startup culture, and a lot of people doing the same thing. So basically, old wine in new bottle, and that is why they are sometimes not able to succeed, because they are not able to solve a problem, sir. So people are reinventing the wheel under different names, and also the market research and problem solving attitude is not there, sir. So how do you think, what advice would you like to give to startups, especially because startup has become the buzzword? If we could have the honor of your views on this aspect to avoid duplication and the tyranny of technology, sir.
Now, startups have now been given a priority in the IPR registration system or the patents and all. So startups have not only the fees are less for them, but they can also opt for a faster examination of patents and grant of patents.
So,
Secondly, we have now the entire of the intellectual, the IPR office set up in Mumbai. It is now given a very ambitious contract based on AI to examine duplication of patents, to remove such, to identify, for example, somebody wants to know which technology is available under where, so that for technology tie-ups one can go to them. All these will be made available. The work is started there. I think another couple of months, you should see significant benefits on the AI-based IPR solutions, where one can find out which startup has got what patent, and whether that startup can be approached for commercial use of that patent or not. So these are some of the things we will be doing through IPR regime.
right, so that was very, very useful. Especially, it is very heartening to see that funding support will be given for startups at the seed level, sir. This is a very big viability gap funding which was missing, sir. And I deeply congratulate and compliment the government and you, sir, for coming out with this seed funding support, sir. Sir, just for the
Mugdha, actually, I mean, you should not congratulate at this stage, because these scheme, the seed fund scheme and the credit guarantee, these are now in principally approved within the ministry and up to the level of the honorable minister. But this has to, since you have worked in GOI, there are many other departments, and the whole process has to go through the cabinet. So till that comes, I would request you to reserve your congratulations. But then we are working on these two lines.
I'll defer it for the moment, sir. Sir, the other thing I'd like to ask you, sir, is, sir, do we also, and this is an observation coming from practically working under the technology business incubation and the Nidhi Prayas scheme, which also helps an entire gamut of startups, sir, in eco-culture, which leads in a vertical hierarchy to setting up centers of excellence, sir. It is coming from there that today in all departments there is a lot of stress on working on startups, sir. Is DPIIT also looking up building a federation of startups in a vertical manner, where all, like the agriculture department is working on the agri startup, business startups, the skill development ministry is also working on startups. That is what I see in government of Rajasthan. The education department is also doing startups in the field of education. The finance department is doing fintech. We in the DST are doing science-driven, innovative startups. So is there any thought of getting a federation together where all ministries working on theme-specific startups could come together in a federation? So that is my next question, sir.
Yeah, in the sense, there is a startup vision when this policy was made and announced by the Honorable Prime Minister. It obviously becomes incumbent upon all the central government departments to carve out a space for encouragement of startup. That is why you will see, whether it's defense production or all the science and technology departments of Government of India, could be skill development, could be many other government ministries, agriculture, animal husbandry, dairy. So everybody is encouraged to carve out a space for startups in their fundings, in their activities, in their programs. So this is very much now ingrained in Government of India, and we are now trying to coordinate all this and to see that there is more visibility in that, and there's a lot of convergence amongst various departments as far as promotion of the startups are concerned.
Sir, you have actually rightly used the word convergence, sir, and I think that is the need of the hour. So thank you very much, sir. Sir, if you permit, I will take some audience questions now, sir. There is a gentleman, Sagar Milind. He has sent us a question. He says, startups need online clearances of all licenses and approval of projects online to reduce red tape and babu culture. Intellectual property is not considered an asset of the company. There has to be IP valuers approved by government, just like immovable properties. Sir, we'd like to have your response on that, since DPIIT is both the parent department for startups and also for intellectual property rights.
So intellectual property right, we give a 80% rebate in filing of patents for startups. We also give them a 50% rebate for filing of trademarks. So these provisions have generally been made with a conscious decision that the startups feel encouraged to filing of patents and trademarks. But regarding an online filing is always a better system. I would request Mugdha that at the end of this conversation today, if you could send me all these questions with the name of the sender and his contact details, I will definitely ensure that we send him a more focused reply and will send a copy to you also.
Sir, I think that will be very, very useful, sir. We'll take you on an offer, sir, and I will request the our media partners, ELITS, to ensure that by the end of the session today, all questions are sent to us so we can onward transmit them to Secretary, sir. I will also encourage the audience to please ask questions, if any, so that I can posit them from your side to Secretary, sir. We have one more question, sir, coming from Vishal Gandhi. He says some of the initiatives have been there from DPIIT, but enforcement at various agencies is still a big challenge, sir.
I agree. So what to see, while there are the intentions of the government of India through the startup vision and the startup policy is to make things simpler for the startups, there could be hiccups at the field level. I admit that there could be ways of interpretations and all. So that is why there are several levels of review like this. Like DPIIT at my level, I do regular reviews with all the regulatory authorities. Could be SEBI, could be RBI, could be the direct and the indirect taxes department, could be the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. We do that. Secondly, it has been decided to form a council of startups at the level of the Honorable Minister, so that, and that is a combination of various stakeholders of the startup ecosystem. Could be manufacturer startups, could be service provider, tech provider startups, could be financial startups, or those who provide finances through AIF. So that council will meet very regularly at the level of Honorable Minister and see what are the implementation issues that the startups face at the field level. So I'm sure with these kind of initiatives, things, because you have to admit that 5 years back, the ecosystem for startup was definitely not as pronounced and as helpful as the ecosystem is now. But there is a constant scope for improvement in that.
Sir, there is a question from a journalist. He wants to know Startup India Vision Document 2025. What is the progress in it, and what will be its major elements, sir?
Yes, so Startup India Vision Document, we have submitted a cabinet note, is under the consideration of the cabinet, but some of the elements of that is what I discussed, like increasing the fund of funds, like trying to find a seed money scheme for the initial startups who are at the proof of concept to ideation and that level. Then the next life cycle of the startup is the credit guarantee scheme. So these are some of the schemes of the startup vision that we are bringing. Secondly, make it mandatory for all departments to promote incubations, and also to have a hand-holding for startup. So these are some of the essential policies of the startup vision policy that is now under the consideration of the, it is going to the cabinet now. But some of the schemes are the important components of this vision document.
Sir, there are few more questions are rolling in as we go. So Dr. Neeraj Srivastava wants to know, is there any training program through which our students can get benefit in the startup field, sir? And so that is one. And Mr. Rajendra Bagrodia wants to know, are startups not given any support by the government departments to use or promote or encourage their innovative technology? So he's basically asking how the startup technology can be used by the government, how governments can become the first users of the startup technology, sir.
I'll tell you a major challenge when this COVID-19 started. I'll just give you an example of ventilators. India, in all its public hospitals, both Government of India and state governments had only 17,000 ventilators, and the requirement was to procure 70,000 ventilators more within 3 months' time. And as you know, ventilators are very high-end medical equipment, and it's not just anybody and everybody can do it. But we essentially, the guys who are now producing ventilators are the startup companies. It's the Scanray of Bangalore, the Agva of Delhi, and a couple of others who have now doing it in Vizag. So that is how startups are being encouraged to do things. And now this, for example, say personal protection equipment, the PPEs. We are not producing a single PPE in the country till end of March. Today, and every PPE that was coming into the country till March was essentially imported. Today, there are more than 600 companies, which includes, of course, some non-startup big ones like Reliance and Arvind and Raymond's and all. But there are a lot of startups in that whose technology and whose product has been approved and are being procured for PPE and N95 masks. So there is always a constant encouragement from government to promote startups in all its procurement and all its technology initiatives.
So while I compliment you for something which is interesting, which has happened, which I forgot to do earlier, which is the use of AI for prior art search in both IPR patents and for startups, I think that will go a long way in saving on time, energy, and effort.
That I mentioned, Mugdha, was that AI search initiative already. The work has been awarded. The work has started, and I think another couple of months. This project actually it's a 6-month project, which I think was given sometime in January, and COVID disruptions included. I hope it should originally is an implementation period of 6 months. So let's see how, but it has already been awarded.
So we have 2 more questions from the audience. A gentleman, Kodam Ugender, wants to ask you a question. He says, we TQIP 3 faculties, NPIU, are trying hard to bring research projects and startups, but not getting enough cooperation from focus states, college principals, and DTEs of respective states. If you could answer that, and maybe I could also ask another question. Professor Ellen Singh says, how do we verify the genuineness of the startup? Meaning, is there a professional agency involved? Is it the original idea of the submitter? Sir.
It's a genuineness. Obviously, if it is a patent based, so that patent can be verified, whether the startup is a patent or not, or a trademark or not. Then if the startups are registered entities, that genuineness is also verified through the registration process. So there are many ways that you can verify these startups. Regarding these 2-3 states where you are not getting the support, we have a startup portal in Government of India in the startup division. I request that if they can send their queries to them, I'll see that we give you the proper answer and coordinate with those which are not supporting startup initiatives.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So 2 more questions. One I will take on finance based on the experience of working both in RICO with the startup Oasis and the young startup entrepreneurs, and also in the Department of Science and Technology. Sir, startups that work with a lot of angel investors find that they get only funding support if they find that the startups will be able to get commercialized or take off. But science teaches us that acceptability of failure always remains. And we find that most of the funding of the angel investors have gone to the fintech sector, and very less has gone to startups in other sectors, including agri startups. If you have anything to say on that, sir, we'll be very happy to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, Mugdha, it's very true, because most of the AIF support comes to the fintech because they find that probably that looks more promising and their investment is more or less assured by way of a healthy return. So to take care of these concerns, these 2 initiatives that I was talking about, kind of providing a seed money support as well as a credit guarantee scheme for startups, they are basically intended to close these kind of gaps in the way the AIFs treat the startups. I think a lot of emphasis should be coming, and we should be working more towards promoting startups which are into manufacturing and not non-fintech, if I can put it, services also. So these 2 schemes are essentially designed for that.
Right, sir. So it was just an observation that since the startups that I have had the opportunity of working with, at least in the seed phase of their development, would require very little money. Is there any possibility of doing the convergence with the Mudra scheme, which offers loans from 30,000 onwards to 3 lakhs? Is there any possibility? That was just thought, a eureka that came. So I'm just asking it offhand, sir.
The credit guarantee scheme is something which working. We'll see what will be the tie-up with the Mudra, but that is it basically makes you free to take loan from anywhere, not just be bound by the Mudra requirement. And there will be a certain interest subvention credit guarantee. It's not exactly interest subvention, it's a credit guarantee provided to the lender. So I think that will help a lot to the startups who find it difficult to access loans from the financial institutions, the lenders. Second thing is states can, since you are now working in a state government, I will give an example that I found some in one of the startup conclaves, some very interesting manufactured items like from startups who are producing breakfast cereals, like all those typical Kellogg's and others that you see. But the problem is, how do they find space in their supermarket shelf? So initially what I thought that we must encourage that all the Mother Dairy and the Kendriya Grahak Bhandars and all in Delhi, why can't they reserve certain space for the startups who produce of a certain manufactured quality, which are satisfying all the Government of India FSI norms and things like this. So we are working on that. I would also suggest in state like say Rajasthan, where you are currently holding an important post, if you can find out that whatever Rajasthan government procures anything, could you carve out a space for the startups which have reached a certain level of sophistication in manufacturing and which are not inferior in quality compared to some of the well-known established brands. So that is something which you should work closely, both central government and state government.
Surely, sir, that is very valuable advice, sir. I will follow what has been given to me as part of my mandate from you, sir. And just to tell you, sir, Rajasthan has bred some fantastic startups. And just to name a few, which I have had the good fortune of, seeing actively working and sustaining, sir, for many, many years. One is the Udhar Bazaar, sir, which I saw was giving loans, small loans to the Kirana shops during my times in RICO, and I thought they were doing successfully. They were giving loans in 24 hours. And then there is the Car Bazaar, which is also doing very well. Both have emerged from Rajasthan. Of course, there are many, many more. In fact, a lot of IITs are breeding. IIT Jodhpur and AIIMS Jodhpur have also come up along with our other individuals who have a lot of startups even in the field of tourism, sir. So my next question is from a gentleman, Ajay Aswal. He says that startups' need for credit is being taken well care of, but how to help them, help to make them financially feasible, demand-driven, profitable, flexible units. And he says he has seen these kind of flexibilities given to units in China in his visit last year. Of course, China will be a much taboo word these days, but that despite that, if you'd like to maybe link it up, sir, with the ease of doing business, sir, because that is another thing that we'd like to know from you, because India has moved exponentially 50 places in the ease of doing business. If you could also share your experience, pillion riding on this question that Ajay has asked, sir.
Yeah, definitely. The entire EODB is much more than just improving your rank in the World Bank. It is actually the ease of doing business. If you can ensure that you give a power connection within a day to just about anybody in a city, it also includes the startups. If you can ensure incorporation of a company under the Company Act without any hassles, it will obviously help the startups. In fact, it is interesting to note that our startup team poses as dummy entities and tries to avail of various central government schemes and facilities, including the regulatory ones, to see how easy it is as claimed by the department. Sometimes we have found to our horror that the experience is not so so easy. Then we take it up with the department, and I must compliment all the central government departments that they all realize that their focus should be on how to make it simpler and simpler. That is why today, if you find from the initial days when you worked in Government of India, Mugdha, today almost everything is online based.
Absolutely.
Every payment is directly accredited to the account. So there are significant changes that have come in the way government is working for not only startups but for all its citizens, where no middleman should come in between. There is absolute transparency in the process. It should be not only be faster, but it should be completely online. So today I'm very, whenever I see things, the way things have changed since my district collector days, where you always required a middleman to access you any facility that the government offered, whether it's state government or central government. So things have changed, but as I said, it's a continuous process, and we are looking into EODB not just for World Bank ranking, but also a significant intervention by government to make things easier for the citizens in accessing various central and state government facilities and schemes.
So thank you very much, sir. And Rajasthan has also contributed its bit by moving up the ladder, by actually doing a whole lot of reforms in various departments. I've been privy to various kind of meetings we've attended, especially in my role in my previous assignment in RICO. And just for the benefit of the audience, because sir mentioned his days as district collector, just want the audience to know that sir has been district collector in 2 districts of Gujarat, Junagadh and Surat, which are both very, very important districts, and he's held several assignments, mostly in the infrastructure department, including the transport, the commercial taxes, and in Government of India in the civil aviation department. So he understands the ease of doing process, especially as it relates to ground level realities. Sir, as we have now increased the remit of our questions from startups to include ease of doing business and essential element, may we also request you to throw a little bit of focus on the e-commerce and how you look at e-commerce, because tech has become equally pandemic, more viral than the virus, I would say. So there is a huge opportunity now for people getting on to the e-commerce platform, specifically as we see that during the lockdown, when the lockdown 3 restrictions were relaxed in green and orange areas, lot of medicines, lot of other things were being ordered online because of the protocol of social distancing and lockdown. How do you see the future of e-commerce as an industry, its role in the economy, its contribution in the GDP and the policy making, and what advice would you want to give states and the individual e-commerce platforms and users? I think that is also something that we thought we should cover with you, sir.
See, e-commerce is definitely a very, very fastly emerging and developing sector, where it is very difficult to predict where it will go in the next couple of years. But considering from where we started, when we started the initial activities of e-commerce in the country, say 7-8 years back, and today if you look at the spread of e-commerce, it is phenomenal. It is not only prominent in the metro cities of the country, but the interesting thing about e-commerce that it is gradually spreading into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities of the country. In fact, maximum users of e-commerce are now being reported from the tier 2, tier 3 cities. And with the spread of bandwidth, with the spread of internet in the country, naturally there is a technological base also to spread the e-commerce activities in the country. Having said that, and we have seen how e-commerce has penetrated into both goods and services. Most of the urban India and the educated people, they are now accessing services through e-commerce. The Government of India is also taking several digital initiatives to ensure that even the less educated and the rural population of the country gets access to e-commerce through its various payment initiatives and various other policies. But we don't have an e-commerce policy in the country now. So what we are now currently working, in the last February 2019, we published an e-commerce policy of our ministry in the public domain. But thereafter, the elections were held and though it's the same government, but it's still a new government, new minister and all. Then we decided to work on it because a lot of other issues that have come up into e-commerce policy. It is now recognized that a country should have a definite, very clear, coherent, and a policy which is keeping in tune with the requirements of the society and the service providers. So the e-commerce policy firstly should lay down a very clear policy on what is data, what kind of data the e-commerce companies can use, how the citizens' right to privacy can be protected, how that e-commerce data, when it is being leveraged for other purposes, other commercial benefits, accrue to the e-commerce data holder, how the original data provider, the citizen like you and me, how we can have an access to those benefits. Secondly, there are a lot of counterfeit and super inferior products and violation of various safety standards. How can these be taken care of? The consumer rights, how can these be protected? So now we are very soon, we have now finalized a new e-commerce policy. Very soon we'll put it in the public domain. That time we'll request all of you to give a comments on how to improve on the content of the draft e-commerce policy. But then we recognize that e-commerce is going to stay. Its progress cannot be halted. But at the same time, citizens' rights should be protected and the laws of the land should prevail. So that is how the e-commerce policy is being formulated.
So thank you very much, sir, for an overview of the e-commerce policy, because a lot of our startups are also working in the field of e-commerce, especially a few days back, sir, just to let you know, we launched a science and technology department's lecture series on Know Your Scheme, where we had invited Mr. Praveer Krishna, sir, to speak on the Vandhan scheme. And he spoke about how the tribal artisans, the forest gatherers, and the crafts community is being brought online on the e-platform for giving them a retail space. We in government of Rajasthan are also working on developing business models with our artisans and craftsmen, working with Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur, sir, based on royalty sharing emerging from the GI, emerging from the patents that we are able to give them, especially the handicrafts and the food people who work in the food and agri sector, sir. So another question, sir, because I see that you have to leave at 1:30 and we about have 10 more minutes. I will also request if the audience has any more questions, please put in whichever media you are watching it live. I'll be happy to take it up. My next question relates to, sir, the mentorship under the startup program, sir. We started something called the Science Innovation Lecture Series, where anybody who was invited by the Department of Science and Technology to give a lecture was automatically entered as our mentor, sir. My only problem is that we do not have a database of mentoring, sir. As a state, sir, I request if a directory of mentors in the startup ecosystem could be built, where in different areas, people who have worked on getting startups in different areas who have also agreed to give their time to mentor youngsters. If that could come up, maybe the states could help you build that database and directory, sir, because I find that this is a challenge, sir. So if you'd like to guide us, guide the states on this, we'll be very happy to learn from you and to move ahead in this direction, because I find mentorship becomes a problem on a sustained level. The first session is very good, but when they want to individually interact, it is not very sustainable in an institutionalized manner, sir.
We have a mentorship program, Mugdha, but I'm sorry that I don't know the details. I would request you to send me a mail on that. Let me come back to you in a more structured manner on that.
Right, sir.
To our startup team.
Sure, sir.
On how to address the important requirement that you have highlighted.
I will do that, sir. Sir, in the meanwhile, Prashant Sinha has joined us from BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus, and he has a question. He says, Meghraj is one important initiative by Government of India for cloud computing. If startups can get free access to the cloud server, I don't know whether this pertains to your department, sir, or to the METI.
It doesn't, but have they checked up what is exactly the Department of IT has said on that? I'm not aware of who is the controlling the server and what exactly is the problem they face.
It is under MIT, madam. So,
It is actually under MIT. So Prashant
Yep,
Sinha ji,
that's
probably
right,
more for MIT. I thought as much than DPIIT. Are there any more questions? There is one more question which has come to me. As government has further relaxed the FDI norms in the defense sector, what role startups can play in this strategic sector as we are highly dependent on imports? I think that's a good question, sir, to ask in these
Yeah,
times.
very, very important area. In fact, Finance Minister in her packages announced this, that in defense production, the FDI limit should be extended to 74%, if I'm correct. Today, in the defense production, the FDI limit automatic is 49%. Anything above that has to come to the approval route, which takes a lot of time. And we all know that in defense production, despite Make in India, there's a lot of import dependency on that. This is something which the central government is now thinking to address by encouraging more investments in India. So when you're talking of more investments in India, it could be through bigger entities in India. It could be also through the startups who can take an initiative in that. We are now going to work with the Department of Defense Production to see that these FDI norms for automatic route are revised from 49 to 74. I see a lot of interesting possibilities in the way startups and Indian manufacturers in general can play a role in defense production, in increasing India's self-reliance track record in defense production. The defense production is not only about weaponry, it is about a lot of components and a lot of vendor development that is possible in defense production. So I see very exciting possibilities in this regard.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very, very useful input, sir. Another participant wants to know, Sumana 20, some students want to start cultural museums and record repositories at panchayats. Will Startup India fund this?
We don't have a direct funding for this, but if there is under the state government, if there are some initiatives like this, I do not know. But as far as very quickly I can recollect, I don't think we have a funding scheme for like that.
So probably the seed support could be given to startups which come up with such kind of a virtual reality.
Yes, when that scheme comes, yes.
Yeah. So one question I have, since our remit has extended beyond startups and everything is so interconnected and interrelated in the post-COVID times. So DPIIT also looks at and was instrumental in formulating, along with the Department of Finance and Ministry of Finance, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 of India. I remember we were involved in negotiations as I was looking after the NAFTA desk at that point in time in the Ministry of Commerce. Sir, how do you see in these post-COVID times, when the economy has taken a hit because of this virus and because of being locked down, how do you see the working of this act, the Bankruptcy and the Insolvency Code 2016? Do you think many companies will be going in increased litigation to declare themselves bankrupt or insolvent? How do you see the future, sir?
No, in fact, major amendments are coming in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, but then Government of India has realized the problems many companies, small and big, face in the post-COVID scenario that we find ourselves in. So the bank moratoriums on existing loans has been increased. There's a work going on in the Department of Financial Services and as well as in RBI to ensure that companies are not declared defaulters for no fault of theirs, for no deliberate omissions on their part. So just expect to see some more concrete announcements coming from the relevant department in this. Mugdha, let's stop at this stage. I'm sorry because there is something which I have to, some phone calls are coming. I'll have to attend that. But I really enjoyed this brief interaction with you and all the participants. My sincere thanks to you. Keep up the good work. And my best wishes to all the participants. Let's all come out successfully out of this tragedy that has been thrust upon us for no fault of ours. My best wishes to all of you.
So thank you so much for your time amidst a very, very busy schedule and for giving us all those valuable, answering all our valuable